It's about to go down with Marc and Cathey, a live coaching show about dropping ideas. Marc and Cathey coach and have conversations with brilliant idea creators who are reimagining the world through the expression of their words, thoughts, and action.
Hey, everybody. I am Cathey Armillas.
And I am Marc Williams. Welcome to another episode of It's About to Go Down. And every episode and every conversation is special to me. But this right here, I got my sister, Cathey. I got my brother, John Glozek. And let me tell you, I'm not going to go into the whole story about how I met this most awesome dude. But what I will tell you is that I love this guy. I love this guy like a brother. And I am amazed by what he has done in his life. He is currently the publisher of New York Golf Magazine. He is a career drummer, or at least he started out as a drummer, getting back to drumming. So he's got that musical talent. And one of the funniest people I know. I got to see him in stand-up, but even when he's not on the stage, he's always making me laugh. But we're here for some serious business today, John. And John's idea that he would like to share with the world is about how to turn your passion into your business. John Glozek, welcome to It's About to Go Down, my brother.
Hello, and I have to thank you for calling me a dude. I don't know when that has ever happened before. But, okay, but yes, brother, hello, good to see you guys, and thanks so much for having me on.
Thanks. So John, take us back, right? Like, what was your passion, or what was a passion?
Gosh.
And how did you turn it into a business? Why should we be turning our passion into a business? Tell us more about this idea.
Okay, I didn't know it was a passion. I mean, I started playing drums when I was 10 years old. The short backstory there is I'm in elementary school, and a friend of mine, we were in fourth grade. We liked two of the flute players in the band, two girls in the band. And we go down to the band, and this is where it could be funny. We go down to the band director in fourth grade. I'm 7 years old, and tell him we want to play flute in the band. And he says, well, I don't need any flute players, but I could use some trumpet players. We're all in on that because if we can hang out with the two girls, whatever it takes, we're in on hanging out and playing. But I'll play whatever you want me to play as long as we can hang out. Wind up playing trumpet for about 2 years. I wind up getting braces in my mouth. So that ends anything I could play. No saxophone, no clarinet, nothing with my mouth. And it was either piano, guitar, or drums. And I'm going like, well, piano, I can't move my 10 fingers that way. And that's a lot of who knows where they go and everything else. And then I'm thinking, well, a guitar player is not too bad, but that's my 2 arms and my 10 fingers. I'm like, I'll just play drums because that's just my 2 legs and my 2 arms. So I narrowed it down mathematically, thinking I could do this. I wind up taking drum lessons in 5th grade. And that continued on through elementary school, junior high school, and high school. And when I played in marching bands when I was 14 years old. I was very lucky to play at Citi Field, which at the time was Shea Stadium. I played in the Thanksgiving Day Parade and the St. Patrick's Day Parade, and I'm playing in marching bands and everything else. And when I was 16, I wound up going to a very famous drum instructor here on Long Island, and knew who he was. And I was like, now I'm getting serious and I need to practice. When I turned 18, there was a drum shop that opened up here on Long Island. And I wound up having 5 stores. Now I'm all in on a career of playing drums. And that's kind of when you turned into whatever I was doing into now it's a passion and a career. I'm playing drums. I'm teaching drums. I'm working in the largest drum shop in the country. I'm there for 10 years. I'm meeting every famous drummer in the world at the time in the 70s and 80s. And I do remember my mother saying to me, oh, this will be a good hobby. I'm like, wow, I'm working in the largest drum shop in the country. I'm playing drums. I'm teaching drums. And this is kind of beyond the hobby. So after 10 years of working in the drum shop, I'm thinking, what else can I do? Where am I going to take the career next? I've met everybody. I'm playing, I'm teaching. And I started a drum magazine, having no idea what to do, but timing is everything. And it's just when Apple came out with the Mac Plus. And I go buy a Mac Plus. And I'm thinking, well, this is the toy that I'm going to need to create a magazine. And I create basically a single page newsletter for my students at the time. And it goes from 1 page to 4 pages to 8 pages to 16 pages. And then now it's costing me money. And it's either, here comes the passion, either I need to turn this into a business or I need to stop it, because all it is, it's costing me money. And I decided to turn it into a business. And I got the major drum manufacturers to advertise, the cymbal companies, basically the drum industry to be involved. And I wound up interviewing the greatest drummers in the world, from the drummer with Letterman, and the drummer with Billy Joel, and the drummer with Bruce Springsteen, and Kenny Arna from John Cougar Mellencamp, and Tico Torres from Don Jovi. So I'm like a kid in a candy store. So, but it's work. And at the end of the day, it's really work, and it's serious work. So I turn this into, this 10-year-old, 7, 8-year-old kid who turns, loves drums, ironically, because I could have been a trumpet player if I didn't get braces. And I turn this, 10, 15 years of being in the drum industry into a passion and a career. And I wind up publishing this drum magazine for about 6 years. So what happens, and I loved playing drums. What happens is I wind up getting a job at a defense contractor, Grumman Aerospace Corporation. They're here on Long Island. Ironically, I said I would never, ever work at Grumman. My father worked there. My mother worked there. My neighbor worked there. My cousin worked there. My cousin who married my neighbor worked there. My grandfather worked there. Everybody I knew worked there. But maybe this will help to clarify. Grumman Aerospace is the manufacturer of, if you ever saw Top Gun, the plane that Tom Cruise flies in was made here on Long Island. The LEM that landed on the moon I actually sat in, was made here on Long Island. So they have this huge history of, creating amazing things for the planet. But I'm going, I'm not going to work there. I'm playing drums. I had hair at the time. Mark, you had hair at the time. So
I had hair at the time.
Yeah, right. I wind up working for this defense contractor. And about 6 months into the job, I go to my boss and I said, why'd you hire me? I said, my resume said band, drums, musician, band. Never been on a job interview in my life. And he says to me, he goes, well, we interviewed for 30 days. He goes, we interviewed a bunch of people. He goes, you were the only one that seemed interested. And I'm going like, interested? I'm asking, where do I sit? What time do I need to be here? I asked a lot of questions. He thinks I'm interested. But working there, I realized from the corporate perspective, everybody played golf. There's 35,000 employees, and we didn't live too far from a lot of golf courses around here. And all of a sudden on a Wednesday afternoon at 1 o'clock, you couldn't find anybody, and they're all out playing golf. And I'm going, what do I need to do for my next career? Either I'm going to run this place and put man on Mars, or I'm going to go play golf. I wind up playing golf, take up the game. I actually called my father, said, Dad, I need to borrow your golf clubs. I told my boss I play golf. He's like, what? I go, I know. I lied to my boss. I told him I play golf. I need to borrow your golf clubs. Wind up getting my father's golf clubs, play with my boss. I played just as bad as he did, and started playing golf on a regular basis. They'd ask me to play more and more and more. So now I'm still publishing a drum magazine. I'm still playing drums. I'm still playing in bands, but now I'm working during the day from 9 to 5 at this defense contractor, which was amazing. It was an incredible job. Loved it. But now I'm playing golf. Here's how, I'll call it ignorant I was. One day my boss comes to me and says, we're leaving 1 o'clock. It's in June. It's a gorgeous day. He goes, we're leaving to go play golf. Do you want to come? I look at him. I go, what about my time card? He says to me, I signed your time card. I go, I'm in. I realize Now I'm getting paid to go play golf. Thank you very much. Play golf, get paid to play golf, play more golf, get really good at it pretty quick. Not really good. I get good enough at it relatively quickly. And about a year and a half later, I go to my dad and I say, Dad, I want to start a golf magazine, because he played all his whole life. He says, no. I go, Dad, I'm starting a golf magazine, which I did. A month later, because I had the experience from the drum magazine and all that passion, I now start a golf magazine because I'm passionate about golf. And now I'm publishing a golf magazine and a drum magazine at the same time for 6 years.
Wow.
Here's what's interesting. So I remember people saying to me, wait, you publish a golf magazine and you publish a drum magazine. Do you work? I'm like, do I work? I'm busting my butt. Like, they think it's like happy day, I'm playing drums and playing golf. I'm like, no, that's not how it works. I'm practicing golf and I'm practicing drums, and I'm putting out 2 magazines. So the golf magazine wound up taking off. And basically, I explained it real simple. There's a lot more golfers, and there's a lot more golfers than there are drummers. And I always said, think of the 70s and 80s. I go, do I want to hang out at country clubs, or do I want to do really good drugs? I'm going, I want to hang out at country clubs. And that passion, and now I've been publishing the golf magazine for 34 years. So it's
Congrats.
just, and thank you so much.
And
anything else?
Well, it was clear to me in that story, John, you turned pro pretty quick, right? I mean, you were getting paid to be on the golf.
Wasn't a pro, wasn't that good. But yes, I was getting my paycheck and I was out going playing golf.
I love it. But I think that's the big, the big idea here. A lot of people definitely segregate out. Even your parents were doing that too. And if you listen to any story, I was listening to the story of Shoe Dog, Phil Knight, when he started Nike.
Yeah.
And at some point his dad was like, please go back to the firm and stop doing this tennis shoe thing that you're doing as a hobby, so. Right. And you said something, Mark, I don't know if this hit you too, but how many of us have started something that we did on accident? I would say that we did something by accident. John's story is really cool because it ultimately started, the music started because he wanted to hang out with the 2 girls, him and his friend. How many times I became like a Olympic level fast pitch softball player. And the first time I ever played softball was because somebody that was really popular in my elementary school, and I had just moved there, played softball, and I wanted to hang out with the most popular girl. And then I became it turned into something. So John and Mark, I would ask you this, because now I feel like John and I have both said something. What's something that you've done that became a thing and it was by accident?
Man, as you was talking, I was like, I'm trying to think of my thing, and I might need a moment to think about that. I don't know. I know that's something. I know that. Yeah, go ahead, John.
I was just like, take the moment to think about that, and I'll just tell another side story. So when I was playing drums, and still do play drums, at some point, probably when I was about 25 or 6, I saw Gregory Hines, the tap dancer, in Sophisticated Ladies on Broadway in the city. And it turns out he wound up, obviously a phenomenal tap dancer with him and his brothers. He wound up playing drums in the show. Amazing. And the next day, I literally went out and bought a pair of tap dancing shoes. And I mean, it was just like, because I'm thinking, a lot of musicians, Buddy Rich was a tap dancer, Johnny Carson played drums and a tap dancer. And they kind of, the rhythm and everything goes kind of hand in hand. And I'm thinking, my gosh, I mean, this guy's phenomenal. And it turned out one of the drum students in a drum store I was working at, he was a dancer and his wife was a rockette. So I wound up taking dance lessons from them. I took jazz, tap, and bell. I never turned it into anything, but I loved it so much. And I love Broadway, and I love, obviously there's a lot of musicians and I have musicals and everything else. So I have that connection, but it was always interesting about, what could I turn this into? But it also goes to, where do you want to spend your time?
Yeah.
Even now, when being at country clubs and in the golf business, a lot of clubs are putting in pickleball courts.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
no. And I'm going like, no, because I go, where do you want to spend your time? And if I'm spending it on a pickleball court, I'm not practicing golf or I'm not playing drums. There is only so much time. So I'm fortunate enough to have two passions that I could manage and, not necessarily juggle. They kind of go hand in hand. I work them together, but there is only so much time in the day. And you do really need to focus on whatever that passion is and whatever you want it to become. And technology allows you to see that happening a lot sooner. I mean, I've seen some, 20-year-old musicians that are just insane off the charts and so good because they're on Zoom and they're watching they're on YouTube and they're taking these lessons. And no matter what you're doing, you take that passion to the next level, and it's starting younger and younger and lasting longer and longer.
Yeah.
Did you figure out that moment yet?
Nothing as grandiose as the two of you.
Well, now let's talk about, this Toastmasters and education and all the things that you've done for kids and your passion for the kids and how we met and how wonderful the relationship we have. And, COVID hits and we don't see each other as much, but, we've influenced each other's lives.
We definitely have. Well, I will tell you, I almost followed suit behind John. Because when I was a kid, I loved my Saturday morning cartoons. And it was my stepfather who called me in to the living room to watch the Iron Sheik and Hulk Hogan. And I was like, I don't want to watch that nonsense. I'm trying to watch Alvin and the Chipmunks.
Which is a good song.
There was something about wanting to bond that I started to peak a little bit. And I got really into professional wrestling. So much so that beyond role-playing professional wrestling games, because they've had some card games, reading magazines, starting my own wrestling magazine.
Wow.
Granted, it was loose leaf paper and a pen. And it never made it past my bedroom. But I did apply for a job at a wrestling magazine. And I even auditioned to be a wrestler with the WWE. But that's a whole nother story.
Oh my God, Mark. That story has got to be hilarious.
Secret. He's keeping secrets from us. See?
No kidding. I mean, I knew about the wrestling, but I didn't know all that. Wow.
Yeah,
So
well,
here's
that's
a
what happens
shocker.
when you open up a can of worms.
I met Hulk Hogan. Well, I should say, yeah, I did. I met Hulk Hogan at LaGuardia Airport. Walking by with him and his entourage, literally said hello to the guy. You look up at him and he's a big boy.
Yeah.
There he was, Hulk Hogan in LaGuardia Airport, getting a connection.
Wow. Hey, John, you know what I'm wondering? A lot of people have passions. Some would even call them hobbies, right?
My mother.
Right, like your mom. What is it that, for those who might want to turn a passion into a business, what is it that they're not getting?
It's not that I don't know if they're not getting, they might be afraid, or they're not sure, or they don't know how. So maybe that's what are they not getting? They don't know how. And I was a big reader of business books from, I guess, high school, junior high school. Like, you mentioned Knight with his book. I read Jim McCann from 1-800-Flowers, who started in one flower shop. The guy had a flower shop. And now he owns like 16 companies. He's been on TV, he travels the world. It's just interesting. Or some of the people that I've interviewed business-wise. I remember interviewing, and this I guess relates more to a golf story, but way back when I interviewed the president of America West Airlines in Phoenix. I was at the Phoenix Open, and this is probably 35 years ago. So was sitting on one of the tee boxes, just sitting talking about golf and business. And I said, how much business do you do on the golf course? And I'll never forget. He says to me, he goes, well, I call up Boeing, we go play golf, and I order airplanes. I'm like, that's it. I order a couple white ones, I order a couple tan ones, and he orders airplanes. So I realized, how important golf is to business. But to answer your question, I think it's the what they're missing is the decision to finally take that first step and do it. If you have the passion and you have some talent or some belief, don't let anybody stop you. I mean, I could have stopped a long time ago. There's many days you're thinking, is this really going to work? But I would also say you want to get people involved, or if you don't know an answer or you need help, ask for it. Find out who knows the answer, or somebody that you could take under your wing, or someone that has an interest in you. And I don't, you could want to be a chef, you could want to be a musician, you could want to be a poet, whatever it is. If you want to be, an entrepreneur, being a painter, go find out who's the best painter in the area. Where could you take lessons or study from? And now you could Zoom with anybody in the world. I mean, I've done that now. I'm finding drummers now all around the world that I could just find on YouTube. I try to find their website. I send them an email and ask them, hey, I'd like to take some lessons from you. Just to expand the knowledge. And that might be that step that people need to take that they don't have or don't believe in themselves. And sometimes, ignorance is bliss. I didn't know that I was did I really have talent? Was I really good? I mean, I knew nothing about publishing, nothing, but I knew I wanted to educate my students and help my students. And I literally started with one page on a manual typewriter. And it's really hard to create 3 columns on a manual typewriter, let me tell you. And make photocopies and literally cut and paste. So nowadays you have all kinds of opportunities, and that's where even with influencers on social media, I was recently at a conference, and not to be sexist, but these women that are on social media that get hundreds of thousands of followers because they're on some beach in a bikini. But there was one golfer that said, she goes, listen, I get it. That's not how I want to be known, but I kind of have to do some of that to be an influence golf, but I'm really about the golf. So, social media, you have to have a head on your shoulders to, what direction do you really want to take this in? And, stupid example would be, if you want to be a painter, I mean, don't necessarily paint nudes. I mean, it might get you fixed. But if you want to be a really good painter, there's a lot of options out there. There's a lot of ways to learn. And I guess that's the point of, what are they not doing is go seek out the best. And because the best at one time were where you are now. And I remember reading that in one of my business books about, I believe it was like Dove soap, and Dove soap is pretty huge. But the guy that started Dove soap took soap out of his trunk and went door to door. So you have to start somewhere. Not, Dove soap didn't start as a multi-billion-dollar company selling soap. The guy, just like Jim McCann at 1-800 Flowers, he didn't have this mega corporation with candy and flowers and delivery and everything else, and just be ahead of the curve a little bit.
Yeah. Gosh, one of the things I love that you said, John, because I think if somebody's listening to you, it seems like it should just click for everybody. I love this thing, whatever my thing is, and why haven't I turned it into a business? I mean, literally, I'm listening to you and I'm like, if why would I not turn my passion into a business? I mean, Mark, you and I could probably talk about something we're very, very passionate about, maybe more so than what we do for a business. And it's like, why are we not doing a business around that? And I think one of the things you said is really critical. I think people have a lot of fear or don't know where to start, or think that they need to be in a different place. And the person that started Dove soap didn't know how to make soap at one point, somebody else was making soap, and now that company probably doesn't even exist anymore.
Yeah, and I think what you said, it's it being in a different place. You are where you are, and you have to kind of decide where do you want to be, and you don't even know that. You may not even know that answer yet, but you want to go further and further. The ones that excel and the ones that are super talented. I mean, I remember, and yes, there's some natural talent involved. But it being in the music world is tens of thousands of musicians, talented, living in their basement.
Yeah.
Take that step out of the basement. And it's almost like, Mark, we could talk about Toastmasters and public speaking. You got to take that step to get out up on the stage. And we haven't talked about it yet, but even when I started doing comedy, I turned, I had, not that I had passion for comedy, but it kind of turned into it because I turned it into a business. A friend of mine was doing it. You laugh at comedy, but boy, to turn it into a business, it is difficult. It is hard to get up and be able to say to make other people laugh. I mean, I can make you guys laugh right now, and I can sometimes make my wife laugh, but she doesn't think I'm funny, but to get up in front of 400 people and think you're going to be, it's like, hi, make me laugh, is a lot of work. And even when I was playing, let's go back to comedy for a second. You could come up with a joke that lasts 5 seconds, but it may have taken you 5 months to come up with that 5 seconds.
Yeah.
And even when I was playing drums, I mean, I would practice 10 hours a day. I mean, I got good at it because I was sitting in my neighbors. I look out my friends out on the street playing football and baseball out on the street, because it was back in the 60s and 70s and you could do that. And I'm like, no, I'm not coming out. I'm practicing drums. And I would be in my bedroom 10 hours a day, practicing. And certainly there's people that spend more time doing it and got a lot better at it. But you want to, if you have it inside of you to want to do something with it, take that step and do it.
I got to ask you a question, because I don't think Cathey knows this about you, even though you've kind of said this.
Oh, her and I talk all the time. We know more about each other.
We go way back.
It's so much easier Zooming with just the two of us.
Yeah. Having you in there, Mark, it's just, it's,
I just get in the way.
Yeah.
John, you had mentioned going out and seeking the best. And you and I have talked about another speaker, Jeffrey Gitomer.
Yes.
And Cathey, the first time I really heard of Jeffrey Gitomer was from John. And one of the things that John shared was that after seeking out or connecting with Jeffrey Gitomer, he would actually go to some of the events and help out, right? Help out at the table. But all of it was really to learn. And I think there's something there, because you said it with the drumming and the golfing, and I think that's something that maybe people aren't doing enough. You make a conscious effort to learn from the best, to surround yourself by the best, so that you can then eventually take that into turning this passion into a business. So I find that to be very fascinating.
Yeah.
I think you get to that point, and I think that's a great point, and Jeffrey Gitomer is a good example. I mean, he's one of the best, and he's around a lot and traveling the world and country and business, and read a bunch of his books, and he has his stuff online and YouTube. But early on, you get what you give. And I knew if I helped or be a part of get on the inside, I wanted to give. I just didn't want to take. I wasn't there just to take. I was there, well, if you need something, what else could I do? You already have volunteers. I want to volunteer, because now I'm not paying to be there, but I'm getting the same I'm getting more value. And now I'm on the inside. And I remember somebody saying it to me at a Gittimer event when they said, "Oh, John, you're on the inside now," you know. And there's tens of thousands of people that would like to be on the inside, but I didn't do anything other than being genuine, being real, being sincere, and going, "Hey," but the goal was, how do I get to the inside? Right. So I'm willing to volunteer and my time and do whatever it takes and be real about it. And, you know, he's a smart man and he saw that. And I can remember one time he was setting up an auditorium. Nobody's in there but him, and he's got his projector screens and everything else, but he needs duct tape to cover the wires. And there's nobody around to be found. There I go through a kitchen door, and I am like, I'm walking where I really shouldn't be walking, but I'm walking through the kitchen. I'm trying to find a closet, and I find tape. And there I am on the floor taping up the wires. And he looks at me and he went like, "Glozek, you're in." Like, he gets it. You know, it's just like, it's no big deal. I'm putting duct tape. What's wrong with me putting duct tape on the floor covering a wire? Certainly, and I did that many times for decades as a musician, so it's no big deal. But I think you get what you give, and it needs to be genuine and real. And I've done that. You know, Jim McCann from 1-800-Flowers, and a lot has to do with golf too. I mean, if somebody does play golf and has relationships, I mean, I remember, you know, I give somebody a copy of my golf book, or I give them my business card. And you have that connection of golf. And, you know, when I call people, they think I'm calling them to ask them to come and play golf, but they return my phone calls.
I love it. They're like, "Play golf?" Yes. Other thing? I don't know. I'm only buying airplanes on golf courses. So no, I love this. I guess, Mark, you know, this is the part where, you know, my brain would be like, okay, John has this incredible story. He's done incredible things, and listening to him talk, it's like if he were sharing this on a TED stage and really trying to encourage people about this idea of you should take your passions and turn them into business. It's like, what is that big idea? And I think we're starting to get at it. I love this thing. I feel like there's a big block that people have, John. I feel like people don't believe. It's like, you know, when you were little and your parents told you that there was a Santa Claus, and then the day that you found out, you were like, "Wait, what?
What do you mean?"
Yeah. John's like, "What do you mean? There's no big red suit, beard wielding man that fits through your chimney somehow." And even though in New York City, we might not have chimneys, but, you know, do you remember that moment when you're like, "Oh God, I believed, and now I don't believe anymore"? I feel like that happened to us as adults too, with working. Like, we're like, oh, when we were young, we were like, "Oh, I'm going to be a doctor. I'm going to be an NBA player. I'm going to be whatever." And then I think we got to some point and we're like, "Oh, that was Santa Claus. We don't believe that anymore."
Reality sets in.
Yeah, some kind of weird. We have the people in our life that tell us the things like that's a hobby. But I love that you've, like, one of the things that I've noticed is that you've flattened the entire, like, there's no, I mean, you're like, "I'm going to go put duct tape down for somebody. I'm going to help somebody out. I'm going to call somebody and ask for help. I don't care. I'll figure out a way." It's like you find a way. When you really want it, you find a way, but you have to believe. I don't know. That's what I was getting.
Yeah. And I think, and that's to lessen it a little bit, there's also reality. And maybe this is a good example. I know I will never be as good a speaker as Marc Williams. And I mean that genuinely and sincerely. And I'm saying as an example. So I know if I want to be involved with Marc and see what he does face to face and spend time with him, I could be a part of his life by being genuine and wanting to help him. And I saw, or it could be selfish, because the day I saw him, I called him, like emailed him the next day going, "Okay, I want to be like you." You know, it's like, so there was a selfish part to it. Going like, whatever it is you do and however you do it, I want to be able to do that. Even though I can't, I want to know how I get from where I am to where he, as close to where he is. And, or a Jeffrey Gittimer, who's a phenomenal speaker, has, you know, multiple #1 bestsellers and everything else, and going, well, I'm never going to have 10 bestseller books, and I'm never going to have a million people on my email list, but how do I get from where I am to where, as close to where he is, and see what he does, how he does it. So I always wanted to see, you want to see the best of the best. And I always felt I was like that commercial that says that, I think it was a BAS commercial, we don't make cars, we just make cars better. Well, we don't make, whatever that, we don't make mufflers, we just make mufflers better. I don't make Marc Williams, I just make Marc Williams better. Which is why, and that's kind of where I believe I fit in. I am not going to be the best golf publication in the world, but I just want to make my golf publication better. I am not going to be the best golfer in the world, but I want to be the best golfer I possibly can. And I seek out some of the best instructors, and I'm around some of the best instructors, and I want to spend time with them. And not necessarily by osmosis, but also by practicing and putting in the time. It just doesn't, nobody Mark is not going to wave a magic wand over me and go, all right, you're going to win Toastmasters next week. No, it's not going to happen. Or I'm not going to be a funny comedian. I got to put all that time in. But I have gone to see Jerry Seinfeld, and I have gone to see Chris Rock, and I read their books, and you do the homework. And then one of the golfers said it the other day. It's like, I've never worked a day in my life. Really, at the end of the day, if you turn your business and passion into what you do, do I work? Absolutely. Do I bust my butt? Absolutely. But I'm in the golf business and the drum business and the music business. And to practice is really hard. I mean, it's not easy. I realize, there's a lot of talented musicians out there. But if you look at all the entire planet of all the people in the world, there's not a lot of Lady Gagas out there, or Barbara Streisands, and Beyonce, and pick actors and actresses. There is a clique out there, and we watch TV every day and watch these actors and actresses, and that's a lot of work to get to what they do. And I'm like, I remember I did a one-man show. Well, I took a class. Okay, let's go down that road. I took like a 6-week class to perform. And it was a lot of work to try and memorize 10 minutes of material in a one-man show. I'm like, really? Which is no less somebody else's material. It's not even yours. You're learning somebody else's lines. And to perform that. And I was like, it's like insane. But that's why there's professionals. Yeah. Shifting gears, I look at my life and I look back and I go, boy, what would I have wanted to do? And my passion, I wish I would have been an astronaut, to go on the moon or go into space or be in the medical field and help change the world. You look back, but that wasn't even on my radar. I was playing drums. Like I said, I had hair, and I'm like, you practice it and practice and practice. And you end up in this tunnel of like, this is what I'm doing the rest of my life. And I thought I would.
That is an interesting side shoot for me, though. I can't get my mind off of that. The whole thing of like, we've all done something because we got there somehow accidentally.
Yes.
Like, or just in proximity, maybe not even accidentally, just proximity. You're in proximity to somebody or something. And that was, John, if you grew up in a household where your grandfather went to the moon,
right.
Guess what? You would have been a lot closer to being an astronaut than a drummer, I think.
I was an insurance man, and it's hard to say it, for one day. My uncle was in insurance. My parents were like, well, this drum thing, why don't you get a real job? And, your uncle's an insurance man, go see who he does. And I remember standing in an elevator, pushing the button, going, I am never going to do this. I was like, it was
the last time I pushed this button.
That's it. I was in the elevator. I'm not an insurance man, and it's not happening.
Yeah.
Different opportunities come different ways.
Wow. I got to tell you, I've absolutely loved and treasure my career as an educator. Being in a random room where this lady Cathey was running a workshop, happenstance being on a stage at a conference, and this guy John is taking pictures and capturing photos for the event. I don't know if I'd be doing the show with you. I don't know if I would have this speaking career if I had not happenstance or accidentally or coincidentally walked into that room where you were, Cathey, or been in the same room with you, John. Wow, that's true.
Yeah. And the good news, or what comes out of that, is we like each other. See, and that's important, because
That's really good.
yeah, you know who you don't like, and you know who you're never going to see again. And if you do see him again, it really doesn't matter, because then you're not going to see him again after that. It's like there's a connection, and you right away, listen, I could have emailed you, you could email me back, we could have not liked each other, and the party would have been over. But all of a sudden, you talk and have a conversation, and it's genuine and it's real and it's nice, and you say, all right, listen, this is going to go somewhere. Like you don't even think of it. It naturally happens.
Yeah.
I mean, I could have went to my drum instructor when I was 16 years old, who was famous at the time, and if I didn't like him, I was done, and I don't know what I would be. I'd probably be in insurance. There you go. And I'm very lucky, Mark. You've had an incredible career as an educator, and you've influenced so many students. And in my career as a drum instructor, I know I've influenced some I've never heard from, but I have one student who I had way back when, who's in Florida, reconnected with me on Facebook, and has told me I changed his life. That is, and we're friends now, and he plays golf, and I see him in Florida, and he has a music career that's incredible. But he said, because when I came to you, this drum student, the drum teacher he had before me, he didn't like, and he was ready to quit. He goes, but when he came to me, he liked me. And I didn't know that. I didn't know that until 40 years later. But he goes, you changed my life. So I hang on to this one student that I'm like, it's precious. And you have so many, which is great. I mean, to influence a career of individuals is incredible.
Wow. And John, if there's one that you heard from, there's 100 that you haven't, right? Like, so they say that about the New York.
I don't know where they are. What's taking them so long?
Well, you heard that about the New York City rats, right? If you see one rat, there's 100 more or something. Right?
And they're all, and some of them only have 2 legs.
Yeah, they're not all equipped with 4 legs. Exactly. No, but maybe the deeper part of this idea is actually I'm more fascinated by what you said in this space, John, than because when what you said made sense. It's like, oh, if you have a passion, well, first enough, be brave enough to know that you can do it. Go seek out the people that that have done it before you, because they at some point were in your same position. Be willing to put in the homework, be willing to put in the work. You haven't said anything yet that I don't think people would understand or go, yeah, that kind of makes sense. I'm more fascinated, Mark, by this like proximity, like where John got these unique, I would never put golfing, stand-up comedian, and drummer in the same room. Like in my mind, those aren't 3 things I would put together. And yet this is John's life. And so it makes me think, and Mark, the space that you are in your life and what you do with your free time and what you do with your family and what you do for a job, it's been things that have been in your proximity. I don't know. It's kind of interesting to think about that piece of going back a little further to even finding out where that actual hobby is and why it's run so deep. What's in your proximity? And would you even ask people, John, I ask you this question, would you even, if you were talking about this as an idea on a TED stage, would you even ask people to pay attention to your proximity? Have a little more intentionality on it, like.
And some people do. I think that's where the super successful, that upper echelon, or that 1%, whatever you want to, the Lady Gagas, interesting, the Stevie Wonders of the world, or all these Michael Jacksons, that's the far and few between. But I think like I said, there's so many talented people that are at that level below that are very talented, and I saw that in the comedy world, and even in the drum world. In the comedy world, you got the Chris Rocks, you got the Jerry Seinfelds, you got the Jim Gaffigans, you got everybody you see, but there is a super talented group right below that level that nobody knows.
Yeah.
Well, only a few, some people, they haven't made that mega superstar status yet. And I think that happens. If you said to me right now, who's the who's the shortstop for the Boston Bruins? You know, for pick not Boston Bruins because that's hockey. That wouldn't work. But give me the shortstop for the Milwaukee baseball team. I'm like, I have no idea. Well, who's the center for the New York Giants? I have no idea because they're all in a uniform and you don't know it, but they're making a lot of money. I think there's, and I started in the drum world where I knew all the famous drummers, but nobody knows who the drummers are. I mean, yes, people know who Ringo Starr is, but if I said to you, who's the drummer with Bon Jovi, right? Yeah. Nobody knows. Who's the drummer with Billy Joel, who's every month he's at Madison Square Garden? Nobody knows. But I knew all those guys in the drum world, and that's super mega famous. That's and you live with that. Phil Collins, people don't even know. Phil Collins is a drummer? Like, really? Yeah, he was. Like, that's where it started. So it's interesting. And I remember seeing, and now the younger generation kind of misses that. I remember a couple months ago, I went into a candy store, a chocolate store. How unusual, Mark, right? That I went for chocolate, right? So in the store, there's an elderly woman behind the counter and this 20-year-old girl behind the counter, but they're playing music in the store. And it's Stevie Wonder. So I look at the old lady, I say, watch this. I turn to the 20-year-old and I say, who is this? Like a deer in headlights. No, I'm like, it's Stevie Wonder. The guy's a legend. And I think we have to realize, looking at, I'll maybe mention this, we have to look at the history to be able to move forward. And when I seek out the best, you want to seek out Stevie Wonder, you want to seek out Quincy Jones, you want to seek out Frank Sinatra. I mean, he's not around anymore, but you're like, these are legends, and you have to, how did they get to where they are? And it's practice, it's work, it's likability, it's being real.
You talked about, Cathey, about paying attention to the proximity. And I think that captures so much from just paying attention to even the accidental things, right? Yeah. Like, so much of your story starts with having a crush on a couple of girls, right? Yeah. Who knew that just trying to be around these two girls.
And braces.
Right? And braces.
That didn't help at all.
But even, because I think there's two sides to it. It's paying attention to your proximity in terms of things you wouldn't even expect that could lead to something.
And being open to it.
And being open to it. Yeah.
Right? I was going to be a drummer my whole life. I was playing drums. And all of a sudden, I get this job. I get a job. And now I'm playing golf. Yeah. I was not from the day I was born until 28 years old. I had zero interest in golf. Zero. But I saw it after a year and a half. I saw it as an opportunity.
Wow. Yeah. So pay attention to the accidental and be open to it, and pay attention intentionally, because Cathey used that word before. Because I think about, again, the Jeffrey Gittimers, all the different drummers you're around, and doing your homework, getting in proximity, you use that phrase, getting on the inside. I mean, these are all so many valuable lessons. Cathey, I don't know what to think of.
And I know we're going to wrap up soon, but even the fact that having a commonality, because I just thought of each of us have published a book. So not only do we like each other, I can talk about Mark's book, we can talk about my book, we can talk about Cathey's books. So it has things in common. And whether you're a musician, a painter, or anything else we've talked about, being around other people that have something in common with adds to the experience, adds to the journey.
We're all hilarious. I mean, come on.
All? Wait a second. 2 out of 3 is not bad.
Don't get him started.
You're like, don't do that. Don't push his button. John, I love it. I think you just have one of those stories, though, that's pretty inspirational yourself, because I hear you talking about other people. But when I listen to your story, you have that same inspirational story of just people respect that. They go, oh, this guy really liked drumming, and damn it, he put together. I'm impressed by typewriter and column. Like I'm still trying to figure out how you did that. Like that, there's got to be quite a lot of math involved in doing something like that on a, and,
Yeah.
but I'm thinking that, you know, everything that you said is kind of a parallel to so many things in life. Like pay attention to what's around you. Mark, you called that out, right? Like just paying attention to what's in your proximity, be intentional, do something about it. And so just what you've done, even if somebody doesn't get inspired to, you know, create a business out of their quote unquote hobby, I think you've said a lot of things that make a lot of parallels.
We could keep talking forever, but you know, depends on how much time you. I know eventually we're going to run out of time, but it's also never too late. Whatever that passion is, whatever you feel it is, it's never too late. I mean, I was watching American Ninja Warriors last night, and one of the, 71 years old on American Ninja Warrior. It was one of the contestants' moms. They got her to do it, and you know, my gosh, if you want to take up drums at 71 years old, do it. I actually taught an 80-year-old woman when I was teaching 40 years ago. God bless her soul. I'm sure she's gone. But I remember teaching it. She was passionate about it, came in for lessons. I'm like, 80 years old, you want to start taking drum lessons? Really? I'm all in.
And I bet she did pretty good because of how much effort she was putting into that. Yeah.
Loved it.
I mean, she might not be a Phil Collins or, you know.
Not many people are.
Right. I love it.
But you don't have to be the best. You just have to be better.
Yeah.
Watch Emily in Paris. It's Phil Collins' daughter.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Emily in Paris is
I've actually seen a couple of episodes. Oh, that I did not know that.
Learn something new every day. See what happens when you put yourself in proximity of people?
Yes. Exactly. Yeah. Well, this might be a good place to kind of wrap it up and talk about, like, it's been an interesting conversation. I love, John, like what Mark and I do that I think that we love to do so well is we just have conversations about ideas. And so we just love dissecting an idea, and we never know where it's going to go. We don't know what we're going to get out of it or what but I'm curious to hear what you think. You came into this show already knowing that this idea you have done yourself, right? Where did it end up for you?
Well, it's not going to end up. I think we keep going, and you know, I'm not doing comedy anymore. That was a result of COVID, and you know, there we go, talk about practicing and going back in time. I haven't done stand-up in 3 years, and I'm not ready to start over again, but I've become more passionate about drums, and I'm practicing drums more. I just got my second drum set. So I think from, you know, this past conversation and past hour is, you know, our likability and how much passion we have for each other, wanting to be a part. I miss seeing Mark because, you know, since COVID, I haven't seen him, but, you know, Zoom helps a little bit. You're on the other side of the country, and, you know, eventually we may get to see each other somewhere. And it's about friendship. You know, I've always said there's times where it goes beyond relationships and it becomes a friendship, or it's not a business relationship, it's a friendship. And that's what the three, you know, doing this and what I got out of this past hour is that's what the three of us have. We have there's this special relationship that has developed into a special friendship.
I second that. Thank you, John. I appreciate that so much. I love that you called out our connections too. I mean, because I think you could take any three people and find the connection. And sometimes it might not be easy. Because if you say golf, I'm going to run the other direction, like you might have done when you were 27, you know. And if I say pickleball, you're definitely going to run the other direction.
Out. Sorry.
Yeah, see, he's out already.
Pickleball, I'm out. Maybe John, bingo. I could do bingo.
Oh, okay. Bingo might be an in-between that we could all do.
Yeah, we could do some bingo.
I'm getting old.
Oh, thank you for that, John. So what I'd love to know, John, is, you know, people are watching our show, and like, if they want to find more out about you or what you're doing, like, where would you direct people towards?
They could go to nygolfmagazine.com.
Okay.
nygolfmagazine.com, and everything's there. My contact information's there, website, email, all that stuff.
It's all there.
Great. All there. And they don't need to be interested in golf. That's okay.
Love it. Or pickleball.
Right.
or professional wrestling.
or professional wrestling. They just need to be interested in you, John, and your idea. Well, thank you for being on the show,
Thank you,
John.
guys.
And for anybody watching, Mark and I love to talk about ideas. So if you have an idea that you want to talk about and you're like, ooh, I just think I'd love to have an idea conversation with you and Mark, hit us up. We have a website. It's not nygolf.com magazine.com, but it's about to go down show.com. You can reach us there. Or maybe you know somebody, you're like, you should be on Marc and Cathey's show. Reach out, tap in. We'd love to, because today, y'all, it went down, and next time it's going to go down as well. And every time it's going to go down. So thanks for tuning in to another show of It's About to Go Down.